time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I'm your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and I am here today with the fabulous Dr. Marcia Martin of the Heart Healing Foundation. And the reason we're here is to talk about something that a lot of you do, a lot of us do, and that's worry. So we're going to be talking about the hidden cost of worry, exploring what worry is doing to every aspect of our lives, because there's lots of things that happen and change as we get older. So what do we do about that? So welcome. How are you, Marcia?
I'm lovely. Thanks so much for having me.
You are lovely, and I love those flowers behind you. They look
Thank
very, very
you.
audacious and beautiful. I love having flowers in my space. It makes such a big difference, and that's great when you're on video. That's a really smart thing to do. So tell us first, before I do the formal introduction, where are you currently located in the world?
I'm in Los Angeles, California,
Okay.
in the United States.
How long have you been there?
I think it's been like 15, maybe 20 years now.
Long time.
Been a while, yeah.
Long time. All right. So I'm going to tell you folks a little bit more about Marcia, and then we're going to dive in behind the scenes and find out the real juicy tidbits that she doesn't tell us in her bio. And then we're going to get talking about why worry is neither preventing or preparing you to handle what's coming. So Dr. Marcia Martin, the heart healer, is a spiritual empowerment counselor, metaphysical minister, best-selling author, public speaker, and clairaudient angel communicator, specializing in helping people heal their relationships with themselves. By healing the heart of all the past pain and trauma, you'll be able to establish and maintain healthy relationships with yourself and all others so that you can live a successful life. Her unique heart-centered energetic healing approach, the angel heart healing technique, enables you to build the perfect relationship with yourself and helps you answer the questions: who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? Those are some very good questions to answer, and all of us ask at different points of our life. So that's awesome. All right, as promised, tell us something about you that we would never guess from reading your bio or your website. Maybe even your friends don't know. What's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
I don't know if they would be surprised at this point, but I am a transplant from the East Coast and moved to the West Coast when it was the East Coast was still a little bit more formal than the West was considered. And at that time, I talk with angels, and I talk with them all the time, all day long. And at that time, I would take a lot of walks because I like to talk with them when I'm walking. And we had headphones that would connect to the phone. And so I would put my headphones in and carry my phone because I got tired of people saying, "Who are you talking to?" Or what what are you doing? You're just talking and there's nobody there. I'm like, "Oh, I'm on the phone."
Yeah.
So,
So that they just think you're, a regular person who's on the phone all the time instead of someone who's maybe losing it.
yeah.
Um,
Then I came here and hey, people talk to themselves all the time and nobody even cares. And I was like, "Oh, what freedom.
yeah.
This is just lovely for me."
Yes. California is a lot more accepting of that kind of thing. There's a lot more tolerance of different perspectives and different ways of being there. So,
Absolutely. So the thing that I had hidden so diligently now became just something that I could talk about at the grocery store and find that the person that I was sharing with also had a story that they wanted to share about their angelic interactions or encounters or relationship.
Ah, okay. Well, and that often tends to happen. Whatever we're passionate about, we tend to attract people who resonate with that. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this work, but also what's your why? What's your purpose in life, and how does that relate to the work you're doing?
Well, I love that question because the why is because I can't not. And it's not really a good, people say to me, why you? I'm like, I have to. This, you don't, you don't understand. If I've got the information, then I have to find some way to help you receive it. And so that becomes my job. And I do it whether I'm paying attention or not. I find, I'm halfway through the conversation, I'm realizing, oh, we're in another counseling session. What am I doing? This was just supposed to be a conversation, but
Right.
I'm showing you how you're not going to be able to get where you're going by choosing that direction, even though that's what society would tell you to do. I'm giving you the angelic viewpoint, which is larger, overarching, and can see the easiest and let the route with less obstacles,
Mm,
not less challenges, but less obstacles, because obstacles are something that we put in our path through our belief systems that can often be faulty. Challenges are something that we encounter to help us grow.
mm. That's
So
a nice distinction. I like that, the distinction between those two. So, is this something that's been part of your life since you were little?
it has, although I didn't acknowledge it. To me, as a little girl, just talking with these creatures in the woods that were invisible, and having acorn tea with my little helpers and setting up little houses was just a fun play thing to do. Looking back, I realize, oh gosh, I've been having conversations with these energies forever. And I just used to think, oh, I have such great ideas sometimes. Aren't I amazing? I have such great ideas. Only to discover I had a lot of help.
Ah, okay. So when was it in your journey that you kind of started to get conscious about what was going on?
In high school, I suddenly wanted to really delve into that other realm. It was still called the paranormal.
Mhm.
So I had a great fear of it because I didn't want to be abnormal.
Mm,
So high school, I really started digging in
mhm.
and getting immersed. But then I went to college and I needed to fit in again. So, I can't hide as well when I'm sharing a room with someone else. So I just put all that away. Then in my master's program, I ended up at a pretty conservative school. And sure enough, they had a professor that had taught a class about conscious evolution. So
Mm,
I go to that class and meanwhile, I'm an educational developmental psych major. So, I'm constantly in the abnormal function of humanity. And then I go to this conscious evolution class and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want more of this. And so while I was in my master's program, he introduced us to a meditation circle and we did healing work and all of these things. And I'm just drinking it in.
mm,
But my master's program ends and I have the conversation with myself, well, got to go back to a real job, had a teaching job and then decided to go full time for my master's. So took the time off that I needed for that. And then, okay, well, this was really fun and I really lit up from it. But, I got to go get a I got to go get a real
oh,
job again.
yeah.
And so I put it away again. And that began that descent into hell.
Mm,
That was when I went further and further away from me and more trying to be what I needed to be so I could be seen as normal. And
mm,
that just was my trajectory into the deep, dark disaster of bad decisions and depression.
mm,
And that kind of really almost marked the first half of my life.
Mm.
So it was not a, gosh, I woke up in a few days and said, why have I thrown away this thing that brought me to life to try to be part of society?
Mhm.
Why am I so attached to being what somebody else wants me to be if it has cost me myself?
Oh,
So it,
that's a beautiful statement. Say that again. Why have I been so attached to being something someone else wants me to be if it's cost me myself? There's so much. Um, I think approval is the most devastating issue in the world because we twist ourselves inside out and we betray ourselves and we abandon ourselves in order to be liked, accepted, loved, whatever. And the cost is so high. So it's a really valuable recognition that you had that that was costing you. So what shifted that? What was it that allowed you to find the courage to not care so much?
hating my life so much and being so miserable with what came of my choices that I just couldn't commit suicide because my children still needed me.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, that's out. You know, you've made a you've made a really bad mess, and it's, I can't see anything good in it
Mhm.
except these two little beings. Well, they weren't that little at that time, but these
Right.
two beings that are still dependent on me being there for their okayness. So I got to figure this out. I don't want to continue down this dark, dismal path, pretending that I'm happy or that I am something that I am not. I want to really feel good about myself. And at that point, the money was very, very tight
Mhm.
because why not? You know, why would you hold on to any good thing in your life when you're busy trying to destroy it through depression and
Mm.
any other decision of not being worthy
Mm.
that you may be making? And I think that's really important for people to understand is that when you decide I am unworthy, unlovable, have not created a life that I can be proud of, you make sure that all of your decisions and all of your actions match your belief system.
Mhm.
So, you know, you're going to create that unexpected bill or emergency or whatever it is to make sure that your life lines up with your belief system.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I had kind of dug a hole as deep as I could go.
Yeah.
And I had had people before this give me little tidbits, sort of pushing me back onto the path of my greatest joy.
Mhm.
And I was experimenting with these different things, and I would take these different programs and kind of apply them. And I'm like, okay, that's good for a minute, but
Mhm.
nothing's really changing. And this probably doesn't work. Or if it does, I'm just too broken. You know, I'm the one that it won't work for.
Mm.
And this just continued until I was just like, okay, something's got to change.
Mhm.
I wasn't ready to say it's me that has to change. That came a little bit
Not
later.
yet, but okay. Mhm.
So it was something's got to change, and I don't know where to go.
Mm.
Well, I love to read, and
Mhm.
I am always at the library. And one day while I was at the library, through my fog of depression, I was sent to the religion and spirituality section. And I started to read. I wanted answers. I was looking for magic. I was looking for overnight cures. I was looking for any reason why I was not responsible for this mess. And I found exactly the opposite. I found the long road home. I found that it was me that had created this.
Mm.
And then it took me another couple of years to recognize, hey, wait a minute. If I created it, and I don't like it, I must be able to create something I do like. I don't, that was like such a thunderbolt. But I
Uh-huh.
spent years saying, oh, I'm just really bad at manifesting my desires. So
Yeah.
if I learn how to be a better manifester, then I can create a steady income, a life I enjoy, feeling good about myself. So I spent all this time. What is this process of manifestation? Only a couple of years later to wake up and say, wait a minute, hold on. Somebody had to create everything that was wrong, and that was you, because you're the only one in this scenario from beginning to end. So apparently it's you that can be doing the creating the other way. So where are you, where is the breakdown? What kind of bridge do you need to get from what's wrong to what you want, or what you don't want to what you do want?
Yeah. And I love the shift there and the distinction, because it's not necessarily wrong. It just isn't as effective as we want it to be, and it's not necessarily working for us. And there may be lessons in it and learnings in it. And often in hindsight, it's like, oh man, I wish that I had learned that faster or sooner. But we get it when we get it.
We get it when we get it, and we learn so much by not getting it that I'm quick to say to everyone that I work with, you are perfect. This is perfect. You may not be in this moment perfect for yesterday or perfect for tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you're not there and you're not here. You can only be in this moment. So allow yourself to be perfect in this moment. And
Mm,
that is something that we're all doing at my people that I'm working with. It's called the I Am Challenge. And that challenge is for 2 weeks to say that you yourself are perfect and everything you encounter is perfect, no
mm,
matter what's going on, just to say, I am perfect. My finances are perfect. My health is perfect. My what relationships are perfect. And then recognize that we will do anything to make ourselves right.
yeah.
So if you keep staying and agreeing with and honoring I am perfect, but
Mhm.
you're kind of in this lane where that's not very true, you will subtly shift yourself to the place where it is true and give up with less of a fight that thing that you thought you needed to hang on to, that
Mhm.
limiting belief or worry,
Yes.
fear, doubt, shame, guilt, all of these things start becoming less important because I need to be right
Hmm.
and I am perfect. So, this doesn't feel so good over here. Maybe I got to let go of that for a moment. And as we get used to letting go of it, we begin creating these new habits.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And I think that, often I'll describe that with my clients as we often tell not very helpful stories that don't help us be who we want to be, do what we want to do, or have what we want to have. So we need to tell better stories. So I am perfect is equally as valid or a possibility as I'm a mess, or I'm, screwed up, or I am not enough, or I'm not worthy. We might as well, we're making it all up. We might as well tell a better story.
Well, exactly. Who's to say? And, because I work with the divine, I will say, no,
Yep.
we must speak, see, act, talk as the divine see you. Who are you to say that you somehow have superior vision or information to the divine? So they see you as perfect. They see you as perfect when you believe you are in the midst of your greatest screw up, because they can see the lesson within this challenge or this thing that you're participating in, and they recognize that on the other side, you will have so much knowledge that you can expand. And so where you were, even if it didn't feel good, was perfect for where you are going.
Right.
And so if we are truly to be in our greatest state of alignment, which is our greatest place of being, then we must be as the divine are, see as the divine see, speak as they speak. And so the only thing they would ever let you say is, I am perfect.
Hmm. That's a beautiful perspective. So there's a bunch of questions I have, but let's just briefly go back to what was your master's in and what did you end up doing with your life until you started to shift into this work?
Everything. My undergrad was education and psychology. And I worshipped the brain. The
Hmm.
brain, if I could just figure out how these kids are thinking, I was elementary school, how these kids are thinking, then, oh my gosh, I could teach anybody anything. So then I go back, master's degree in educational and developmental psychology, again, exploring the abnormalities of behavior and the brain and the brain and the brain and the brain. And I'm just, all hail to the brain. Longest journey I've ever taken was
Hmm.
from here to here.
From your
And
to your heart. Yeah.
interesting that the most successful I was as a teacher was when I was operating without even understanding, when I was operating from the heart.
Hmm.
It was leave the brain in the other room,
Yes.
reach them here,
Yeah.
and you can teach them anything.
Right.
But they had to teach that to me because I didn't know that. And then I immediately threw that away when I kept going, leaving teaching and going back. So teaching had my son left until he was ready to go to school. Then we went back to school together, then left again for my daughter, and then didn't end up going back formally then. I think I did some tutoring when she was still young, and then worked in other crazy jobs, just again, looking for me.
Yeah.
Who do I want to be? Oh, maybe, I don't, they changed teaching so much. It was, I wanted to be able to hug the kids, and it was, don't touch anybody anymore. And I was like, oh, I'm so frustrated
Yes.
with all of this, still not understanding that I was operating from the heart. I still believed fully that I was just giving them really good technical skills. I gotta help you think.
Yeah.
I wasn't helping them think. I was releasing them from the fear that they were not good enough.
Mm.
And that opened up their natural ability to process.
Mhm.
So I didn't know at the time that that's what I was doing, but
Mhm.
I kept seeing these incredible results. And I was like, isn't this amazing? And now looking back in my work with helping people to actually do heart healing, I recognize that's what we were doing. And
Yeah.
they are so open. They don't need this deep, heavy work that I do now. They just needed somebody to tell them they were magnificent and give them a chance to earn that 100 by
Mhm.
doing their paper over and over and over again until there was no fear of failure. And then their natural intelligence could be tapped.
Mm.
But I
Well,
didn't I didn't know I was doing that.
well, when we follow our heart, then we often are smarter than we know.
Yes.
So I wrote down a couple little quotes here. Reach them. Once you reach them, then you can teach them, which I think is true for everybody, whether it's a manager in a corporate situation or a coach working with clients or teacher working with kids. When we reach them from our heart and connect there, then we can teach them. Or I wrote down, reach their heart, then you can teach them the next part, because it's really, um, like you said, the head stuff, we can do lots of head stuff, but the head stuff doesn't usually actually create change. It doesn't create, just because we know doesn't mean we know and we change and we do what we know, which is a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs. We know lots of things, but we don't do what we know because we've got these countervailing beliefs that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, et cetera, or why bother, all the variations on the story. So let's talk about worry. How did you get fascinated with worry and get into that world?
I think that was me forever. I grew up in a home where my mother says, I just worry. That's what I do. I thought, oh, okay, that must be then the way that you live a safe life or a caring life. I wanted, of course, that for her to care about me. So worry must mean caring. And
Mm.
so I used to say to people, I ate fear for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was always worried about this thing that was going to come. Even if it never came, it was not arriving because I had worried it away, not because it wasn't possible for it not to come. It was always my worry prevented this, or I was correct in worrying because here it is. So I could make it fit either way because
Right.
I didn't want to let go of this habit that was so detrimental, but yet so ingrained.
Yeah, we learn a way of expressing love, and they get hooked together, even though they have nothing to do with each other. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's a psychologist who has a client who is not sleeping and not well because she's so actively worrying, and she thinks that's love because that's what she grew up with, much like you. So, how does worry prevent people from being proactive?
Well, worry is very much a brain function and not at all a heart function. So worry keeps you sort of locked in this space, and this is where we create the thoughts. This is where we create the experience. But
Mm.
once the experience or once the desire for the experience is created, we come up here to begin attracting it. So when we are worrying, we are saying, bring me this thing that I do not want. We might have created with the heart an experience that is desired, but then the brain will get a hold of it and say things like, are you sure that's what you want? Let's examine this. Do you think you deserve this thing? And you start backpedaling, or the what ifs come forward. What
Mhm.
if this is doesn't work? Who says that you're good enough to have this thing? And we start processing all of these reasons why we shouldn't have this desired experience.
Mhm.
And so, what the divine want us to do is recognize anything that the heart creates is through the connection that we all have with them. So, they are placing a desire within our heart saying, this is the gift that I want you to bring out into the world for yourself or for the world at large, because this will further you or further your mission or further the world in some way. And if they have shared it with us, it means we are capable of creating it, producing it, experiencing it. But this doesn't always get the message because oftentimes we have this disconnect that has been created by that pathway of worry.
Mhm.
So worry puts us down of the road called worry, and that road can only lead us to more things to worry about. That's all that you can intersect with on that road. That's all that exists on that road. That's all the only scenery you will be allowed to see on that road.
Yep.
Whereas the desires of your heart is on this beautiful boulevard lined with all these experiences and helpful people and things that you would want to interact with. But worry will prevent you from interacting with them because it has its own objective. So
Hmm.
it is actually a one or the other. You cannot do both. And if you try to go from here to here to here, you just go in a circle. And
Right.
eventually, because worry is a corrosive emotion, you end up whirlpooling until you're at the bottom of the ocean saying, how did I get here?
Yes.
I didn't choose this, but you did.
Hmm. So how do we do an intervention? Speaking of intervention, someone just came and rang my doorbell. So that's why I was a little distracted for a moment. Um, how do we break that pattern? Because for many people, it is a habit. So how do we break the habit, recognize it, break the habit, and what do we do instead?
So my favorite place to go is the heart. But one of the things that I'm understanding is after all these years, it's easy for me to immediately focus on the heart, to connect with my energetic team, and to say, okay, what am I doing here? Why is this thing stop, start, or not go anywhere? And
Mhm.
I can see the limitations that may be existing there and take whatever action they suggest in order to limit that. But so that's not always easy for the people who don't have almost 20 years now of being very intensively involved in this space. So begin with the breath. Begin taking deep cleansing and healing breaths. And one thing I like to help people remember is that those of us who are considered highly sensitive or empathic are very much in the giving lane. It feels much more comfortable to give. It feels, I'm okay. I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I can receive the kudos that I want to. And we get very much in the I'm just going to give lane, not recognizing that the divine are asking you to be in balance. Because if you always give, at some point, you just give up, you become empty, and you have nothing further to give.
Yes.
And they explained to me the reason that it is so important using the definition selfish and selfless.
Mm.
So, one of my biggest fears was that I would be considered selfish.
Mhm.
And so, in one of my talks with them, I said, I'm really anxious that I don't want to be considered selfish. I'm now taking an incredible amount of time for myself and doing this study. And yeah, it's feeling like I'm selfish
Mhm.
and I need help. I need guidance on this. And answer was, you don't understand the difference between selfish and selfless. And
Mhm.
it is really a societal misunderstanding. So, from the divine point of view, selfish is when you give from your humanness. You give and you give and you give, but you're just a human. And
Mhm.
at some point, you're going to wear out. But because you're just giving from your humanness and you're not being an example of how to refill, you're creating quite a bit of dependency on those whom you are giving to. You're not demonstrating to them how to stay in balance, you're showing them how to become exhausted.
Mhm.
So when you finally become exhausted, then they're like, hey, we're dependent on you giving
Yeah.
and we don't know what to do. So heck. And they said, okay, that behavior is selfish. You are giving to make yourself feel better. When you connect with us, connect with the divine, and allow yourself to fill and fill and fill until you are overflowing,
Mhm.
you are now demonstrating selfless behavior because you are showing people you must connect to the source of all and give from your overflow so that you remain full and they can receive something of value for them and repeat what you do and get the same result.
Mm. So
So,
part of what I hear there is one, stop, breathe, interrupt the pattern of the worry and the spin. Two, really understand that we need that reciprocal flow of being filled, being receiving sustenance as well as giving, and that is actually a more balanced and effective process than just constantly emptying out your cup. And to really be willing to receive, so to open our heart to get that it is of value for us to receive and be nourished as well, that it's a gift to others. It gives permission to others to do that too. So you've mentioned a few times tapping into your connection. Again, what are some, so for some people that are perhaps not used to doing that, to knowing how to receive, to being able to pause that pattern, what are some ways to really go to your heart, to really interrupt that pattern? What should they be focusing on instead, or a really practical practice perhaps?
and again, I love the breath because we all have to breathe. So, breathing in deeply, that cleansing and healing breath, breathing in so deeply that you can't breathe, the lungs are expanded. And then just take a second, don't push yourself to the point of pain, but breathing in so deeply you can feel the expansion, and then exhale just as completely. But as you do this, breathing in and telling yourself, I am receiving,
Mm,
and just allow yourself to be in the space of, I am receiving.
mm,
And then as you exhale, instead of just automatically giving, you ask, should I give?
mhm,
Is this the right time to give? Or do I need to just give this energy to myself?
mhm,
I'm going to inhale and receive. If I'm empty, I need to give the energy to myself. If I'm overflowing, it will naturally go out to whomever may need it. But you will find more often than not in the beginning that you are exhausted from giving.
mm,
So, breathing in deeply until your lungs expand completely. This creates a sense of well being in the body, and the body then will get the hint, oh, I can relax. I'm safe. I've
mm,
got all this oxygen running through my system. I feel more alive, more secure, more enriched. So I can relax. Do that a couple of times. Allow yourself to relax. Too
mm,
often, we don't give ourselves the time that we need to just be. So
mm,
take a moment just to be and see how you feel,
mm,
not with any kind of agenda or obligation to anyone other than yourself. And let's not call it obligation, let's call it honor. Take these moments to honor yourself and
mm.
see what you may need.
Right.
That's going to open some pathways. The minute you say, what do I need? I
Mhm,
am perfect. What do I need to sustain this state?
mhm,
You will get information if you are open.
mm.
And
Good.
that's the thing to remember. There is no way that you can, well, let me rephrase that. Everyone is loved and accepted. There is nothing that you can do, say, think, be. There is no possible way for you to say, for you to force the divine not to love you. What
Mm,
you can do is cut off the degree of communication that you are willing to receive.
mm,
So you can be the most vile person on the earth, and you are still loved and accepted. And
mm,
that's really where we begin in heart healing. Is most people come to me saying, most are suicidal, but most come to me saying, I'm the worst person in the world. Of course. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your opinion.
yeah,
However, the divine truth is you are loved and accepted as you are.
right.
That can't be, they want to have a big argument. That's you are loved and accepted as you are.
Mm,
Your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts may not be acceptable.
mhm,
However, you, the soul that is you, is always going to be loved and accepted.
mhm,
If you have done very dark deeds in your life, you've probably made your connection close to non existent. And because you don't feel worthy of that. But
mhm,
even so, if you allow it, and it's always up to you,
yeah,
you can open that connection and begin receiving more fully. And the way we open it is just to give ourselves permission. I'm ready. I want this relationship with you. I want to know what it feels like to really be loved and to really be able to love myself. So
mm,
please show me the way. And let us understand that every prayer is heard and every prayer is answered. But if your connection is this teeny tiny, you may not be aware of the answer.
mm,
So it is never, well, God doesn't love me. My prayers weren't answered. It is, I don't love me, and I wouldn't allow myself to receive the answer.
mm. There's so much depth in all of that, and there's so many questions that I want to ask you, but we're running out of time, so just a few minutes left. But I'd love to know a little bit more about two things. One is let's talk about angels because and what those are because people may not know. But I also want to really talk a little bit about your business journey because you moved into this later in life and the work that you're doing now. How long have you been doing this work? So, being a minister, doing the heart healing work, how long have you been doing that?
I have been in this field for about 15 years. It took me a while to move into the fullness of the work. So it's been a journey. It has been a journey of such incredible growth and so many challenges, but so worth it. But again, as I said, I fell into this because I just couldn't imagine after healing my own trauma and seeing that this approach gave me back myself. I couldn't imagine keeping it for myself. My conversation was, I got to try this on somebody else. It worked for me, but I got to try it on somebody else. So is this just a fluke? And so I went around and gathered people and said, if you'll be my guinea pig, I'll work with you for free because
Right?
I need to understand what I've got here and how to make it into a usable system. And that was about a year's worth of experimenting with what was just bulk and what actually needed to happen. And they began getting incredible results in their lives. And I was like, huh, we
Okay.
got we got something here.
So you went into it on a volunteer basis initially so that you could work out your systems and your processes and get some testimonials and some case studies and so forth. And then you decided to start your business. What was the leap that you had to make in your heart and mind to actually start charging people for what you do?
The journey of self-worth.
Mm,
That was because I didn't charge very very much in the beginning. And I actually have now created a nonprofit because I'm still not comfortable with the fact that mental health can be held hostage.
Mm.
It just doesn't feel okay to me. So I have my, if you want to work with me one-on-one, you'll have to pay the full price. If you need to be on a sliding scale, you're part of a group, you get the same treatment. It's just here you have one-on-one time and here you have group time. It just was never okay to me that I had something that you needed that would change your life that I was going to put behind a paywall. So I really have been struggling with that for the entirety of the journey of how am I going to do this? And then my about 2 years ago now, the angel said, okay, let's do a nonprofit. Let's go in a different direction. We had COVID, we had incredible everything, all the prices rising because of that, and a lot more trauma. And I just could not reconcile, okay, I got to charge this exceedingly high amount, which people tell me is nowhere near high enough, but I have to charge a very considerable amount that I don't know that I could comfortably pay,
Mhm.
certainly couldn't in the past, in order to pay for my time and my expertise. And yet there are so many that cannot pay that, that are being held hostage by fear. So I had a choice, either keep giving a lot of sessions away for free, which exhausted me and kept me out of balance, or go the nonprofit route and begin looking for grants and donations and sponsorships so that I can offer this for whatever you can give.
Okay, and I love that you brought up that last part about finding ways to augment that money so that you are still being valued and getting the money that you deserve to be making, um, but still making it accessible for others. Because one of the things I think a lot of the 40 years I've been working with clients, and especially women, they struggle to receive, period, to be validated or valued through money. And they'll often say things like you just said, well, but they will pay a doctor for their expertise, or they'll pay a psychologist for their expertise, or they'll go and get a really nice haircut from someone and pay a premium for it because that person has ability to support and help them and give them something that they want, but they don't think that it's okay for them to do that. And so I think you found a good kind of compromise in that, to get additional funding so that you get compensated for your expertise and your skills, but that you make it accessible to people as well. That's and that you can get paid on the one-to-one side where people can afford to do that, to compensate you. Because I think when often what happens is we think, as we believe, then we tend to attract. So if we believe people can't afford it, then we tend to attract people who can't afford it. And so I think that that's a very common thing for a lot of people, especially heart-based healers and practitioners. They really get challenged with understanding that the value that they're providing is the same as the value that a cabinet builder provides. When they build beautiful cabinets, it's still something worthwhile and deserves to be valued and paid. So tell me just very quickly, when you gave yourself permission to start doing your business, what did you kind of have to shift or think about? Because you're dealing with all of this stuff around. I want to be able to support people with mental health issues. There's a lot of people who are thinking of stepping into a business right now, thinking of doing some kind of helping profession, whether it's coaching or healing or some, massage therapy, whatever it may be. And they have that issue about, how do I get going as a business person? I'm not a business person. How do I do that? What would you advise them? What would you, looking back now, knowing what you know now, what would you advise them that will give them that permission to make the leap?
I think let's get really practical. You still have to eat. You
Yeah.
still have to pay your rent or mortgage or whatever it is. The store is not going to give you clothing. So either you have to understand you are going to work a real job
Mhm.
and get a real paycheck, or you and do this as a passion project on the side. Excuse me. And that means you do it catch as catch can. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of people that are then not able to receive your services because you can't offer them as frequently as you would like. So either you have your job that pays your bills and you have your passion,
Mm.
or you say, okay, I recognize the value of what I am sharing.
Mm.
I also recognize and honor my own value. And so I'm going to find a way to merge them together.
Mhm.
And it's okay, even as you don't have to go nonprofit. And it has been a journey. It hasn't
Mm.
been, oh, we can't wait to give donations. No,
Yeah.
it's been a journey. And there have been a lot of, I'm still shouldering most of the expenses. So you got to get it, be clear when you're going into this.
Mhm.
We are just now, because I have continued to do the work and showing a history of helping people, we are just now eligible for some of the programs that can actually pay us.
Mhm.
So you don't have to be a nonprofit to ask for donations if
Mhm.
you are doing healing work or
Yeah.
work that may be less traditional.
Right.
So, you might say, I work on a sliding scale, or um, help pay it forward.
Mhm.
Any of those kinds of things may be good. But as you said, recognize that there are plenty of people that can pay the bill and ask them to help support some of those who cannot. Unless you are really feel that it's imperative to only serve a particular portion of the population that cannot pay, at which point you better be prepared to get grants and some other operating expenses, or you will be out of business.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing that I really encourage people to remember is that the person with money and the person without money both are human beings who deserve support. Just because they have money doesn't mean that they don't deserve to have someone love them and support them and help them heal whatever it is they need to heal. And in fact, once that person heals, the person with money now has more facility to be able to be a blessing to other people because they have the money. So it's really valuable to support those people too. Um, so let me just kind of close with very quickly. You've mentioned angels a number of times and talking to the divine. You kind of use that a little bit interchangeably. Can you define what you call the divine and what you consider angels to be? Because there may be people who don't have a frame of reference around that. So what do you consider angels to be? And why do you talk to angels?
They are the most fun people in the world to talk with. So for me, angels are not a religious construct. They are energetic beings, just as we are. Although, because they are in a higher frequency, they don't have a solid body. Bodies take up a lot of energy to create and maintain, and they're slow. And the angels are omnipresent. They can be anywhere at any time, and not just, they are not confined just to one space and time as we are in these physical bodies that are also made of energy. So angels are just streams of energy that have specific talent, just like we do, or specific purpose in one particular area, and they are under the auspices of the divine. So the divine are everywhere and everything, and they are massive, and they are this energy that says, we are only love, joy, and peace. We are only unconditional love and acceptance for all. That is all we represent, all we're ever going to be, all that we can interact with.
Mhm.
However, they're huge. And as humans in these little singular points of focus, it can be difficult for us to connect well with something that is so vast.
Mm.
So, and we have specific needs. We may have a need for healing. We may have a need for protection. We may have a need for relationships, for financial support, or just getting motivated. And it may feel, well, I just don't have any anchor point when I try to connect with God, source, the universe, divine, whatever we are wanting to refer to this in a completely non-religious context,
Mhm.
just you to the support system.
Mhm.
And what we have with the angelic beings, and you can call them anything you want. If the word angel is offensive to you or God is offensive, make your own name that doesn't bring to you any negative thing.
Mhm.
They are simply beings of energy. When this time I'm speaking of the angels, being beams of energy that are specific to a purpose. So
Mm.
you would have, for instance, Archangel Raphael for healing. You have Archangel Michael for protection. You have Archangel Uriel, fire of God, to get you motivated, get you going. Archangel Zadkiel, mercy of God, which is helping you clear away your negative relationship with yourself. Be merciful to yourself instead of, oh, that was stupid.
Yeah.
Archangel Zadkiel would say, let's reframe that. How about we say, I'm going to choose a better way.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good. I'm going to choose this more loving, more honoring way forward. So we have all these different helpers, and that's what I call them, my helpers, who have specific areas of expertise that can help us wherever we need that kind of support. And I just find it so much easier to go to that concentrated energy than it is to go to the broad energy. Although I flip back and forth kind of without thinking about it. But when I really need a concentrated beam of energy, I generally call on a specific helper. And
Okay. So speaking of that, you've got an ebook that could be very helpful with people called 11 Ways We Resist Angelic Assistance. So assuming that it also helps us understand how to call in more angelic assistance. So tell people about that and how to get that.
absolutely, come to my website. Jeanette will leave you a link to the ebook, but also you can come to the website, thehearthealingfoundation.org, and hop on our newsletter. You will receive immediately a copy of the book. You will have to opt in, but then you'll immediately get a copy of the book, which will just help you recognize the limiting beliefs, the fears, the worry, the doubt, the things that you may have placed between you and your answer, and what you can do to relieve that so that you can have a life that feels good. And that's the objective. The objective is not for you to have a hard life or a life of struggle or a life of pain. It is to be a life of growth and expansion, but it is also supposed to include joy.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really valuable note to end on. So please do go and get that ebook. It's free for you to download. We'll put the information in the show notes or on the notes underneath on our YouTube channel, wherever you're watching this on the podcast, listening on the podcast, or watching on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, if you prefer video, is at the Maturepreneur Network. You can go onto YouTube and watch the interview with people if that's your preferred way of consuming this wonderful content. And how else can they reach you or get a hold of you, Dr. Marcia?
I would say go to our website, thehearthealingfoundation.org. That's our central hub. We do have YouTube, we're on all social media, but just to make it easy on yourself, go to the website, thehearthealingfoundation.org. There are buttons or links for anything that you want from that website.
All right, awesome. So what's one last thing that you'd like to leave people with to think about in terms of worry or connecting with their angels or the selves? What's the one thing that, especially for those who may be thinking, maybe worrying about that next step, what would you like to leave them with?
I think it's so important to remember that worry can only bring you more worry. And so let's take a moment. If you are worrying, take that deep breath where you expand your lungs completely. And then as you exhale, allow yourself, just say to yourself, I release this worry. And in the next breath, I receive the answer I need.
Mm.
And as you exhale, I release all worry, all fear, all doubt. Just keep breathing in, I receive the answer. I release anything that isn't serving you, any worry, fear, doubt, blame, shame, guilt, any negative emotion. And you just keep honoring yourself. With every inhale, I am receiving the answer. I am grateful the answer is here, however you want to phrase it. Thank you for giving me the answer. You don't have to keep asking, just once. I need to release this worry. Exhale, I release it. From that point forward, the answer is here. I have received the answer. I am grateful for the answer until that answer does appear. Only ask once.
Love that. All right. Thank you so much for taking time to be here and to really support people in the slowing down, in the pausing, in the listening, and in the interrupting that swirling that we often do to move from worry to being more connected, more in that flow of giving and receiving so that we can refill our cups and be coming from the overflow when we're supporting others in the world. Often we try and come from an empty cup, and that's not sustainable. So really tapping into support, or as you say, your legion of helpers that can help fill that cup. So thank you so much for the work that you do. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, I hope that you found and heard in this a reminder to be kind with yourself, to let go of that approval and give yourself permission to be who you genuinely are. Don't spend that time in depression and denial any longer. As you know, Dr. Marcia Martin really beautifully talked about, it's a big price to pay for not giving yourself permission to be who you are and be the gift that only you can be in the world. Thanks for listening. Please do subscribe and pass this on to other people. Leave comments or questions if you'd like down below, but engage with us and let us know how you found this information, how you're going to apply it, what you think. I want to hear from you. I know this is my podcast, but I want to hear it from my listeners. Thanks for being here, Marcia, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.